In 2024, a song called Espresso took over the entire world. It was everywhere. Every playlist, every party, every social media feed. And the woman singing it, Sabrina Carpenter, was suddenly the biggest new pop star on the planet. Overnight sensation. Came out of nowhere, except she didn't come out of nowhere. She'd been famous for 12 years. Most people just didn't notice until 2024. And that gap between the 12 years of work and the one summer everyone finally paid attention is the whole story. Because Sabrina Carpenter didn't get discovered in 2024. She spent over a decade trying to convince the world to let her be someone other than who they first met her as. And that struggle, the struggle to outgrow the version of yourself that other people locked in years ago, is one of the most universal experiences there is. Let's do an icon recall. If this is your first time here, we look at the icons everyone celebrates and ask what it actually cost them to become that. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is not a video about how catchy Espresso is. This is about what happens when the world meets you at one stage of your life and then refuses to let you grow past it. When you get typecast, not as an actor, but as a person. When the first impression becomes a prison. Because Sabrina Carpenter's story isn't really about pop music. It's about the years of quiet, frustrating, invisible work it takes to change how people see you, and whether it's even possible. To understand what she overcame, you have to understand where she started. Sabrina Carpenter was born in 1999 in Pennsylvania. She started posting singing videos online as a kid. She entered a singing contest run by Miley Cyrus and placed. And by 2011, at around 11 years old, she was working as a professional actress, appearing in Law & Order Special Victims Unit before landing at the place that would define the first decade of her career, the Disney Channel. In 2014, she was cast as Maya Hart in Girl Meets World, a spin-off of the 90s sitcom Boy Meets World. For 3 years, she played the tough, wisecracking best friend to millions of tween viewers. And at the same time, Disney's music arm launched her singing career, packaging her the way Disney packages all its stars: bright, wholesome, safe, and aimed squarely at children. And this is where the trap was built. Not maliciously, but completely. Because when you become famous as a child on a children's network, singing children's pop, the entire world files you under a single label: Kid. Disney Kid. And that label doesn't update automatically when you turn 18 or 20 or 22. In the audience's mind, you stay frozen at the age they met you. But here's where the story turns. Sabrina Carpenter knew, early, that she wanted to be something the Disney machine wasn't built to let her become. She wanted to be an actual artist, not a brand, not a product aimed at a demographic, an artist with her own voice, her own sound, and her own perspective. And the problem with that ambition is that nobody was asking for it. The world had already decided who she was. Changing that decision would require years of work that most people would never even see. Her Disney recording contract ended in 2019, and in 2021, she signed with Island Records. That switch was the first real move in a long, deliberate campaign to reintroduce herself to the world. She started writing more personal material. She got her first Billboard Hot 100 entry with a song called Skin. And slowly, album by album, she began building something Disney had never let her be: a real artistic identity. Her 2022 album, Emails I Can't Send, was the turning point. It was vulnerable, personal, emotionally complex in a way her earlier work wasn't allowed to be. It was the sound of someone finally writing from their actual life instead of a marketing brief. And it started to work. She toured. She opened for Taylor Swift on the Eras Tour, one of the biggest platforms in music. The audience was starting, slowly, to see her differently. But the world still hadn't fully caught up. To most people, she was still that Disney girl who was trying to be taken seriously. And there's something uniquely exhausting about that specific position. You've done the work, you've grown, you've changed, and people keep responding to a version of you that stopped existing years ago. And the deeper you look at what she did next, the more deliberate it becomes. In April 2024, she released Espresso, and here's what made it work. It wasn't an attempt to be taken seriously. It wasn't her begging the world to see her as an artist. It was confident, playful, knowing, self-aware in a way that only someone completely comfortable in their own identity could pull off. She wasn't asking for permission anymore. She was just being herself, fully, and letting the world catch up on its own time. Espresso became the song of the summer. Then, Please 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 hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Her album Short and Sweet debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, and at one point she had 3 songs in the top 5 in a single week. She earned 6 Grammy nominations in a single year and went on to win. The Disney kid was gone. In her place was one of the biggest pop stars in the world. But here's the part that matters. She didn't win by convincing everyone she'd changed. She won by changing, completely, and then being so undeniably herself that the old labels simply couldn't stick anymore. The transformation wasn't an argument, it was a fact. And you can't argue with a fact that's selling out arenas. And that took over a decade. That's the part nobody talks about when they call her an overnight success. The overnight was actually 12 years long. 12 years of being underestimated, mislabeled, and filed under a category she'd outgrown. 12 years of doing the work while the world wasn't watching, so that when it finally did watch, there was something real to see. Here's why this matters to you. You have a version of yourself that other people locked in years ago. Almost everyone does. Maybe your family still treats you like the person you were at 17. Maybe your old friends can't see the person you've become because they're still relating to the person you used to be. Maybe at work, you got typecast early as the junior one, the quiet one, the one who does a specific thing, and no matter how much you've grown, people keep handing you the same role. And it is genuinely maddening, because you can feel yourself changing on the inside. You know you're not who you were. But changing how other people see you is one of the slowest, most frustrating processes in human life. First impressions calcify, labels harden, and most people, when they meet resistance, eventually just give up and accept the box. They perform the old version of themselves because it's easier than fighting to be seen as the new one. Sabrina Carpenter's story teaches you something specific about how to break out of that box, and it's not what most people expect. She didn't break out by demanding to be taken seriously. Demanding rarely works. When you beg people to see you differently, you actually reinforce the old dynamic, because now you're the person who needs their approval to change. Instead, she just became who she was going to become, quietly, over years, and let the results speak. She built the new identity so thoroughly and so authentically that eventually the evidence became impossible to ignore. That's the lesson. You don't argue your way out of an old label. You outgrow it so completely that the label becomes obviously wrong. Not through one dramatic moment, but through years of consistent work that nobody claps for while you're doing it. And there's a cost to this that's worth naming. The years in between are lonely. When you're in the middle of becoming someone new, but the world still sees the old you, you exist in a kind of gap. You've changed, but the change isn't legible yet. Nobody's giving you credit for it. And you have to keep going anyway, on faith, with no guarantee that the world will ever catch up. Most people can't tolerate that gap. They quit and go back to being who everyone expects. Sabrina Carpenter lived in that gap for over a decade. So the next time you feel trapped by a version of yourself you've already outgrown, remember what she actually did. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't beg to be seen differently. She didn't give up when the world was slow to notice. She just kept becoming who she was going to be, year after year, until the person she'd grown into was too real and too undeniable for anyone to keep calling her by her old name. The world will always try to keep you frozen at the moment it first met you. The only way out is to grow so much that the old picture stops looking like you at all. Sabrina Carpenter didn't just teach us about reinvention. She taught us that the most powerful response to being underestimated isn't to argue, it's to quietly become someone the old estimate can't contain, and then to let the world figure out, on its own time, that you were never who they thought you were. If this changed how you see Sabrina Carpenter, let me know in the comments. And if there's another icon you want remembered this way, not just for what they achieved, but for what it cost them, drop their name below. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is Recall Icon. Thank you for watching.